Hi everyone. This week on the Photobook review, we'll be going over Suburbia by Bill Owens. You might not have heard of this book. It's photographing a place and a subject matter that isn't always critically investigated. Suburbia. I grew up there. I'm interested in the way Bill Owens photographs it. Really interesting photographer. So let's crack it open and see what's going on. Here we have Bill Owens' Suburbia. This book came out in 1972, and Bill Owens is typically categorized in the new topographics-esque school of photography, which kind of looked at the balance of mankind in the landscape, rather than the Ansel Adams kind of face of God, beautiful, picturesque, idyllic landscape. New topographics critically looked at the development of the West and the cities and man's place in it. Bill Owens is a photographer, and he was a photojournalist for many years, but he's also equally a well-known brewer and publishes a brewing magazine and kind of got craft brewery up off the ground in California. Not to be outdone still, he's a distiller, and he is the chair or president of a distilling advocacy group. But Bill Owens, Suburbia, he photographed the suburbs in Livermore, California, as he moved to the suburbs. He was a photojournalist, and he would meet subjects, he would meet people, and then go back and schedule shoots with them to photograph them in their homes and help or try to understand how they lived or wanted to live the American dream. Of course, the suburbs and tract housing being developed in the West has social and economic and environmental impacts. But the area he photographed was Livermore, California, and over his career as a photographer, he's received a Guggenheim and 2 National Endowment of the Arts grants, which is exceptional. Now, only institutions can get National Endowment for the Arts grants, not individuals. He studied visual anthropology in college, but he dropped out to hitchhike across the country. And over that year, he photographed, but he also served some time in the Peace Corps in Jamaica. And later he returned to Chico State to finish his degree. Title page, Suburbia. You would think that with a title like Suburbia, this would kind of be a tongue-in-cheek, maybe voyeuristic understanding of the suburbs, but it's really fair-handed, which I think is what makes this work interesting and not kind of a one-note score. As I was saying, Bill Owens lived in the suburbs. He moved to the suburbs, and the attraction of the suburbs was that you could live on a piece of land in a house you owned with a lawn and a place to park your car and your boat, and you could commute into the city for work. And it was safe. Things were developed, things were organized. One of the ways that a viewer can understand this, not as a one-trick book or punchline book, is that throughout this book you will see commentary below each photograph, and the commentary is taken from the subjects. So this one says, "Sunday afternoon we get it together. I cook the steaks and my wife makes the salad." What a great way to start with this ubiquitous grill that everyone's father has, and he's got a chef's hat on. And this is how people viewed success and stability and safety in the early 70s. And I think this book, as I'll go into this commentary right here, it corrects misunderstanding that suburbs are ubiquitous. I think especially right now in polling, pollsters love to know how the suburbs are going to vote. If you grew up in the suburbs like I did, you know that the suburbs aren't, opinions there aren't actually homogenous, though the houses may be. And I love growing up in the suburbs, but this image right here we'll take a look at It's an interior domestic view of a mother and her children. This beautiful carpeted living room, brick fireplace, furniture, TV, painting. And the commentary says, I believe in women's liberation. I'm tired of the image of the woman who has the most sanitary toilet bowl, the cleanest floor, and the brattiest kids as the supermother. I want to be able to change with my children and to change with my life as I grow older. Staying at home and taking care of the kids doesn't help. So you see here this woman who doesn't want to fall into these traditional domestic homes that she believes women have been liberated from the home. There's still room for her in the suburbs, though she has this fear that she's expressing that she doesn't want to fall into routine and she doesn't want to not grow as a person. So you'll see throughout this whole book this kind of reoccurring element. You'll see that throughout this book too that there's an element of honesty. You'll see people maybe being curt about or superficial about their concerns, and I think that's one of the contributing things that makes this book interesting is these are real people. They're both shallow and deep. They have superfluous concerns that mean a lot to them, and they have fears they try to keep at bay. Just like we all do, really. This quote right here. This is a good pairing of images, as I'll read the commentaries. This image on the left, a couple moving in. We've moved up to a nicer house. We thought we'd do better, but the real estate man got us. Closing costs were supposed to be $295, but they turned out to be $750. They have you where they want you. You've already moved into the house. So they've been kind of bamboozled. This image on the right is a picture of a man carrying something on his back, and he's walking across this newly cemented driveway, and the lawn is all roped off so no one steps on it. This kind of traditional house behind him. He says, people throw away a lot of good things, clothes, toys, broken toasters, record players, and in the newer areas they throw out tables and chairs that don't fit in their new house. The ecology movement doesn't matter. I make over 250 in Coke bottles. People here can't realize there are poor people in the world. They can't think about the needs of other people. And I think this is interesting, particularly in financial terms, that they're both showing a concern that there's money being wasted or ill spent. They got kind of taken for a ride on closing cost, and he thinks on top of that the lifestyle is wasteful, and he goes around collecting. This book, I think, has signs of participant observation in it that I've discussed with other books, like Larry Sultan's Pictures from Home, Nan Goldin's Ballad of Sexual Dependency, and Larry Clark's Tulsa. Because there is 1 foot in, 1 foot out, balancing act between the photographer and investigating something they're a part of, investigating something that they're in, something that they know as an insider and something they want to observe as an outsider. And they kind of oscillate between those two ideas. So as I was saying, Bill Owens is living in the suburbs. And so critical aspects of this and the shallow aspects of this are part of the same understanding of the suburbs as somewhere that's dynamic. Caption here. Togetherness really exists in our family. My daughter and I operate the lunchroom at the Valley Inn, which was a restaurant. My sons work part-time with their dad hanging sheetrock, and my eldest 2 sons work at the Gulf gas station on P Street. We have 7 cars and 2 motorcycles in our family. I think one of the reoccurring themes in this book is stuff. And you have to buy a boat and have somewhere to put it. You have to buy a car and have somewhere to put it, maybe even 7 cars. But your accomplishment, your success is measured in stuff. And we might now, especially in a university or maybe in an an arts community context, maybe roll our eyes or say like people should know better than that. But I think this book points a finger at you and kind of says, you know, what $80 yoga pants have you bought recently? How much did your earphones cost? What clothes or sunglasses or Carhartt did you buy to kind of signal a certain level of success or reputation? It's easy to think that, you know, people used to measure success in things. It's easy to look back and think that those days are gone, but it's really just different. It's just different. Just different things that we measure success by. My husband Pat has a theory about watering our newly seeded lawn. The water has to trickle from heaven and fall like tender little raindrops. Otherwise, the lawn won't grow properly. Here we have a boat and a camper shell. Now I'm going to kind of flip through this a little bit more. I'll read this one on the right, and then I'll show some more spreads that I think are really interesting. This isn't what we really want, the tract house, the supercar, etc. But as long as we are wound up in this high-speed environment, we will probably never get out of it. We don't need the supercar to be happy. We really want a small place in the country where you can breathe the air. This picture with this commentary is in the same book with people who feel as though there's 7 cars or something that signal their success. And I think that's what I like about this book is Bill Owens went to these people and talked to them as individuals, and you can see the difference in opinions of people who live in the same kind of place. And we think that when people live in the same place, they might be easy to categorize when in fact they're not. I like this one. We've been married 2 months and everything we own is in this room. This picture of Ronald Reagan on the television. I think another thing this book investigates is a desire to be independent and a desire for safety, where people can have garages, people can have pieces of land, people can control their circumstances a bit more. This is a Tupperware party where you would frequently have people over to sell Tupperware. We have been married 35 years, and for the last 5 years we have lived in the trailer park. We love it here because everything is convenient and the neighbors watch out for each other. So they came there from a different background. These two images are interesting because they're less socially conservative people. They're both, this couple's talking about how much they love the mirrors on their roof for when they have sex, and this couple's talking about how frequently they have sex. Refrigerator. Oh, this is a great one. This image on the left, a young black woman in her kitchen. I enjoy the suburbs. They provide Girl Scouts, PTA, Little League, and soccer for my kids. The thing I miss most is black cultural identity for my family. White middle-class suburbia can't supply that. Here, the biggest cultural happening has been the opening of 2 department stores. And so I think in this quote, you see the first half, the draw of the suburbs, but then the cost. And this is dynamic. This is this is not an easily explained understanding of a place. And I think this book does really well with that. If Bank of America knew the truth. You see all these bills below her. This is a great picture here on the left. A whole family gathered around the table. Because we live in the suburbs, we don't eat too much Chinese food. It's not available in the supermarkets, so on Saturday, we eat hot dogs. A messy kitchen. But, I think Bill Owens is not, he isn't looking to poke fun at anyone in this book. He's a pretty down-to-earth guy. He still lives in the suburbs. And he talks about how hard it was to make a living as a photographer. Even when he was selling prints in a gallery, he said it was hard for him to make money because he was in California. He wasn't in New York. It was hard to find work as a working photographer. So that's why he left photography and got into brewing and distilling. And he's a very down-to-earth kind of John Q. citizen. He talks about having 5 TVs in his small little home, and he loves it. He loves going to the supermarket and seeing all the products and such selection and choices and all these things. But I really like this practice that we see of certain photographers of participant observation, that kind of you stand in a middle ground between participating in the group that you're investigating and then stepping outside to look a bit more critically. And I think it offers a more holistic understanding of complicated and complex and dynamic groups of people and places, because this is a place. This is a book about place. My job as an engineer at Lawrence Radiation Laboratory causes a certain amount of tension and frustration. By running a few miles each day, I'm able to find a new sense of being. I love running. Overhead landscape. I love this image of this man cleaning out his pool. This wrap of the pool. I would love to see this in color. That blue of the above ground pool, and that it's almost like the man's reaching between two worlds. He's on the border between two worlds, this aquatic world and this terra firma. I love this image too. That's what it's like to be a little kid building forts. And there's a bit more, but this is Bill Owens' Suburbia, an investigation of Livermore, California over the course of a year. And it's a really dynamic book that investigates a certain population with a fair, dynamic hand. Practically, it's an interesting way to work as a photographer, to take these quotes, these commentaries, and pair them with the images, in that they offer a clearer direction that you want to show your viewer. Bill Owens, Suburbia. So after seeing some of the photographs and reading some of the captions in Suburbia, did anything surprise you about the level of investigation that Bill Owens did in this book? Did it change the way that you understood the suburbs or people that live in the suburbs? Leave some comments down in the comment section, and let's get a conversation going. See you next time.